All righty, so it's 6:23 Central Standard Time. We're running behind a few minutes, but we're gonna get started on our weekly markup here. I'm starting on Forex Factory because I have been slacking on checking our news, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with that first. The only thing so far that I see on here that would have been beneficial was CPI news for CHF, which happened this morning during London session. And then we have some red folder odd news, which is going to happen tonight at 9:30. But from my previous checkings, the cash rates, RBA statements, you really don't get much movement. So tomorrow we have some NZD unemployment rate. That's probably not going to do much either, but we'll check it out and see what happens. We have some red folders here on USD on Wednesday, but because of our government shutdown, this isn't going to really matter. Official bank rate on GBP. This should give us a good spike on Thursday for our pound pairs. Wow. So I forgot that it's the first week of the month. First Fridays is NFP. And just like last month, we're probably not going to have anything for NFP this week since the government is still shut down. So the only thing that I would be looking at would be the pound on Thursday. All right, so we are going to start with Euro USD. Going to delete this here, and we're going to do our top-down analysis here. All right, so EU on our monthly time frame has been in a downtrend here. Looks like price brought up into this gap here on our monthly time frame. And price created an evening star here to let us know that price wants to go lower. So I am going to mark up last month's high, last month's low, and 50% of last month's candle. And we just broke last month's low here. All right, and then I'm going to mark up my last week's candle. I'm going to mark up last week's high, last week's low, and 50% of last week's candle. And last week's low and last month's low is the same, so I'm not going to mark that. Just going to do last week's high and 50% of last week's candle. All right, so I already know that price is coming into this fair value gap here. I don't know if we've made it to 50% yet, so I'm going to mark up this fair value gap. All right, so price is just approaching 50% of this gap here. So it looked like price touched it already last week. Gave a little pullback here. Now it's coming back down. So let's I'm gonna go down to my 4 hour and see if there's another fair value gap. All right, so we currently filling in this gap here. So I want to find 50% of this fair value gap here on the 4-hour. All right, so price is near that one. I'm just going to adjust this blue line here to this gap here. All right, so we're only 20 pips, not minutes, 20 pips from to this fair value gap. So this is definitely a missed opportunity here. We're going to wait for price to get into this gap and then see what price is telling us, if it wants to send price back up or if it wants to continue in this downtrend here. So we're going to wait on this 4-hour fair value gap fill. My next target after that, if price decides to come underneath the fair value gap and retest it, is going to be the imbalance fill on this gap here. So this wick right here on this 1-hour gap, which is only about 60 pips. So there's probably going to be some better trades, especially if you miss this entry here for this sell already. All right, so GU's the same way. Price looks like price has already started selling off. There's not really any opportunities on EU and GU at the moment. So let's go to GBP JPY. Let's do our top-down analysis here. All right, so GBP JPY has given us some wickage up in here. Looks like price is sitting inside of a fair value gap here on the monthly. So I'm going to mark this gap up here. All right, so this is the second time price has come back to this gap, 50%. So this was the first time price entered this fair value gap. It reacted, gave it sell off, and then price continued to move higher because price is currently in an uptrend right here. So I am going to mark this area here because this is a significant area in price here. And then I am going to mark last month's high, last month's low, and 50% of last month's candle. All right, and then I'm going to come down to my weekly time frame, and I'm going to mark last week's high, last week's low, and then I want to see. All right, so I'm going to mark 50% also. All right, so this candle right here on our weekly last week, price gave us a bullish engulfing candle here. So it's letting us know that eventually price does want to continue, but it stopped at this fair value gap here, which was this blue line. So let's come down to our daily. We have this big gap from October. Wow, from the first week of October. It says October the 3rd. That price has not filled yet. So it may be a possibility that we can be getting gap fills this week. Price has been moving sideways here on our daily chart. It looks pretty ugly. Let's move down to our 4-hour here. All right, so here on our 4-hour time frame, we have another fair value gap right here, which is where price was consolidating from. Now it looks like we are finally getting a push to the downside. All right, so this was 50% of that fair value gap right here. We had all of this wicking around. Looks like price wants to leave. It's 6:33. Me and my trading group, we're in sales on EJ. I may be calling sales on GJ too. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's a gap right here to last month's low. Where's this 50%? This is 50%. There's a gap right here on our hourly that we can take this into. Trying to see if price was inside of this wedge here. It's kind of traded out of it. I'm going to let this hourly candle close here. We still have 24 more minutes. Let's see. Hello, Devin. How are you? All right, so we're going to let this hourly candle close here on GJ, and then we'll see what price action is telling us as far as selling. But currently at the moment, let's zoom into this candle right here. This is our hourly candle right here. This candle has ran the high of that last candle right there. All right, so this is a bearish engulfing. So we're going to let this candle close 24 minutes and see if it prints as a bearish engulfing and closes underneath this 50% of our weekly right here. And then we can come back and find an entry on GJ. All right, so EJ, I somewhat have it marked up. I'm going to delete it. I did a quick markup because I saw an entry and I wanted to get my team into something. So they're already in sales on EJ. All right, so EJ is at all-time highs. Y'all see that? All-time highs there. So I am just going to mark here. I'm just going to mark last month's high. Last month's low and 50% of last month's candle. Excuse me. All right, and then we're going to come down to our weekly here. All right, so last week on EJ, price printed a doji, which meant indecision. So since last month's high and last week's high is the same zone, I'm just going to mark last month's low and 50% of last month's candle. All right, and then we're going to come down to our daily here, and I'm seeing this huge gap here also. So we currently have our TP set at last week's low. But I am thinking that I want to see what happens and see if we could possibly get a gap fill this week. So we'll see what happens this week with these JPY pairs. I don't really see anything else that I need to mark here on my daily. So I'm going to come down to my 4-hour time frame here. All right, so if you're looking to get into this trade here, wait for price to come underneath this fair value gap here. And my TP is here inside of this 4-hour fair value gap, right underneath our weekly low there. All right, so I was able to get my team in this as soon as our spread closed. As soon as spread closed, I called this sell. Of course, we had a little bit of sell movement here, right? Price came into this fair value gap here, which sent it back into this gap right here. So this is the gap that I was looking at. And this was a break and a retest of this fair value gap here. Price printed an evening star candlestick pattern, and then it came back, hit 50% again. And when I saw that we got a second touch of the 50%, and then price created another evening star, and now it's also looking like price is giving us a bearish engulfing pattern here also on EJ. I went ahead and called the sell. So I would wait for price to close underneath this 4-hour fair value gap if you're not already in. And then you can take a sell down here to this gap, which is right underneath your weekly low. All right, so that's EJ. Let's see what's going on here with UJ. I'm going to delete this chart. This is an old markup. It's actually last week's markup. Let's come to our monthly time frame here. Let's zoom out. All right. So we're not at all-time highs here on UJ. This is all-time high for UJ, but we are still inside of this wedge pattern here. So I am going to draw my trend line here and this trend line here. All right. So UJ has been trading inside of here. We are currently at the top of the trend line. Not sure if price wants to continue higher or if price is going to come back down, right? We'll have to wait for our confirmations, but currently it looks like price closed outside of our trend line here. All right, so I am still going to mark up last month's high, last month's low, and 50% of last month's candle. All right, so we haven't broken last month's high yet. I want to come down to my weekly time frame. And last month's high and last week's high is the same point. So I am just marking up last week's low and 50% of last week's candle. All right, so I was just zooming out, trying to make sure there's nothing else here on the weekly that I need to mark up. Now I'm going to come down to my daily time frame here. And as you can see, our daily has already reacted to this trend line here, but I have that same gap over here on UJ. So after we finish marking up these JPY pairs, we're going to go over to the yen futures pair to see what the Japanese yen is actually doing. So I am going to mark up this fair value gap here on the daily right here. Just because if price trades back into this, right, then and rejects, then I will be looking for this buy to continue because this is a bullish fair value gap. Or if price comes back inside, this is the area that I want to see price retest for me to get in for my sales. And there's a fair value gap right here also beneath our weekly low, the same as EJ and GJ. Come down to my 4-hour time frame here. Now on my 4-hour time frame, this is considered a flag. This is our flagpole here. And then this is the consolidation that makes up our flag. All right. And this is a bullish flag, which means continuation to the upside. So again, if price comes back down into this fair value gap and rejects the way that I need to see it reject back to the upside, then I am going to take a buy. And let's see on our daily where we could target. So there's an inversion fair value gap here on the daily. All right, so it looks like price did react to this area here. This will be where I will look to take the buy to. All right, so let's go over to the Japanese yen. Give me 1 second, TikTok. Okay. All right, so let's go over to the Japanese yen. If you don't know what the Japanese yen looks like, this is it. Japanese yen futures. The ticker symbol is 6J1 exclamation mark. All right. And as you can see, it is doing the opposite of what our UJ pair is doing, right? So you can use this like you use the DXY when you're comparing your USD cross pairs. You can use this to compare to your JPY cross pairs. So I am going to do my top down analysis here. The yen has always been low on the Richter scale here, and it's completely at all-time lows. This is absolutely crazy. There's nowhere to look to the left. There's nowhere. Look at that. So all I'm going to do is mark last month's low, last month's high, 50% of last month's candle. All right. And then I'm also going to check my monthly fib because when you get to all time highs and all time lows, there's nothing to look to the left to find a zone as far as to take profit, as far as to take your profit. So this is where the fib comes in handy. So I'm going to start from this impulse here because this was my last impulse correction. This is the continuation that we're working on. So we want to figure out where we are here on our fib. So I'm going to use this area here. All right. So this was my impulse. This was my correction. Price came back almost to this 786. So I'm eventually looking for the 618 to be hit. This is the monthly time frame. So this fib takes a little bit longer to play out, but I am going to mark this negative 27 here for another zone. All right, so now let's come to our weekly time frame, and I'm going to mark up last week's high and 50% of last week's candle because the same with the other JPY pairs, last month's low and last week's low is the same area. So I don't have to mark that up again. All right, I'm going to come down to my daily time frame here. And we have that same gap over here on the futures as we do on GJ, EJ, UJ, right? Eventually, right, we want to see price come back and fill this, but I don't know what's going on over there in their economy because this is crazy. We're at all-time lows. It looks like, let's zoom in. I'm gonna tighten that up here. It looks like price has hit this area 3 times now. So eventually we'll see if we can get some type of reversal. Price did leave us a fair value gap here. And then this is 50% of last week's candle. So let's see if price can come back to fill this gap before going lower. So let's come over here to our 4-hour. We don't really have much price action to work off of here. Just a bunch of indecision candles. Okay. So all I know right now is that the yen is super low. Do we have any yen news? Let's see. I don't think I've seen anything major for JPY that can help them out. Nothing at all. All right. So as of right now, the yen is selling, and that would mean that our GJ, EJ, UJ would be buying. But we already got confirmations on sells for EJ. All right, Euro odd. Oh, Euro odd is giving an entry somewhat. We missed this entry here. We have the rejection at our fair value gap. Let's see what's going on our 1 hour real quick. It's already 40 pips from the zone. I hate that for me. Let's do our top down. Let's figure out what's going on here. All right, so we're on our monthly time frame. We can see that we're in an area on the monthly where we have a bunch of rejection here. And I look to my left, and here's our fair value gap here. So I want to see where we are near this fair value gap. All right, so we're nowhere near it at the moment. So I'm not going to mark that fair value gap up. Yeah, I am, however, going to zoom back in. Last month gave us a bearish engulfing candle here. We had our consolidation here, which led to our impulse, which gave us a fair value gap. So eventually, I do want to see price come back into this gap here because this was the last area that price broke out of. But this is the monthly time frame. That could take weeks. All right, so I'm going to mark last month's low. Last month's high, and 50% of last month's candle. Then we're going to come down here to our weekly time frame, and our weekly is giving consolidation. Euro odd has been in this area for quite some time. 210 days. All right, I'm going to mark up last week's high, last week's low, and 50% of last week's candle. Oh, I think we've already ran last week's low and last month's. Let's see what's going on here. All right, we have ran last week and last month's low. At this point, this is telling me that I should be looking for buys back to 50% of last week's candle. So let's come down to my daily time frame here. Let's see what's going on. We got that rejection today. Let's come down to our 4-hour. All right, so from this zone here, price gave us a Morningstar candlestick pattern, and it broke our lower time frame structure, price traded up and came back into this fair value gap here, which is why price is heading back down. So let's come down to our 1 hour time frame. Let's see what we want to do. Okay, so we haven't gotten a retest of our weekly and monthly zones yet. So what we like to see is after price runs last month or last week's low, we like to see price come back into our zone and then retest the zone and reject the zone. So we've already missed this sell here. We want to wait for price to come back here and see if we're going to get any other bullish price action candlesticks near our zone to take price higher. If not, then we are going to continue with our downtrend here. And we're going to wait for price to come back underneath this area here because we've already missed entries up here. Retest and then let us know that it wants to continue going lower. Okay. So where do we have that we could take profit if price decides to sell? I'm coming to my 4 hour and we have a fair value gap right here. I'm going to mark this fair value gap and then I want to see how far it is from current price. So I'm just going to use my measurement tool. I'm starting here at these dotted lines because that's current price. It's about 159 pips. Euro odd moves about 200, 300 pips a week. So 159 pips move is good for Euro odd and it is realistic. All right, so I also see that we have a gap up here. Last month, price left a bunch of gaps and never went back to fill them. All right, let's come down to our 1 hour. Let me look at the 15-minute here. So our 15-minute here in our last leg down, price gave us a trend line here. So we are actually going to mark this trend line up because, again, this was price coming back into our zone, and I'm still somewhat looking for buys here. Then we got a little head and shoulders pattern here. Here's a shoulder, here's the head, and here's the other shoulder. Then it looks like price is trying to react to this fair value gap here. And then on our 15-minute time frame, this was our break of structure here on our 15-minute. All right, so we got a break and it's a possible retest, which is back at our zone to continue higher. So I'm going to set an alert here because this is my area of interest. If I'm going to sell or buy, it's going to be from this area here, which is last week's low and last month's low. Okay. All right, so GBP odd, Euro odd, GBP odd normally move the same. Most of the pairs that I trade have a pair that it normally moves the same with. So instead of me being in one trade, I'm normally in two, maybe four, depending on what's going on. Like if all Euro pairs are trending in the same direction, I'll take EU, Euro odd, and Euro JPY, right? So this is GBP odd. Let's go to our monthly time frame. And what do we have here? Last month, price gave us a bearish engulfing. Another bearish engulfing candle, letting us know that price wants to make its way down south. We got rejection here, right? Which is sending price down. I'm looking to the left. Okay, I do see a fair value gap. I thought I didn't see a gap, but I do see a gap. And we're kind of far from it, so I'm not going to mark up that gap there. So I'm just going to mark up last month's high, last one's low, and 50% of last month's candle. All right, so I was going to say you're odd. GBP odd was consolidating, right? And we've broken out of that consolidation and started to have some bear momentum, and it traded right through this fair value gap here. I do want to mark up this trend line here. And I see where I can mark up a trend line here. So I do want to mark this area up also. We're going to go with this one here. All right, so we've broken out of our trend line here. I see a fair value gap here that price could come back into, but I do want to go down to the 4 hour to see if there's anything else that hasn't been touched possibly. But first, let's mark up last week's zones, which is last week's high, low, and 50%. I'm not going to mark up the low because it's the same as last month's. All right, so let's come down to our daily here. And this is what we have on our daily. And I do see a fair value gap right here. That's right under last month's low. Yeah, we're about 153 pips for it. Price wants to continue lower. Looks like price has already traded back into this fair value gap here. Then we also have this huge gap up here that I am going to just mark up 50% of. I'm not going to leave the whole box there. All right, so let's come down to our 4 hour time frame here. All right, and our 4 hour is giving us some bearish momentum. We got this long bearish leg here. Then we got some consolidation, starting to look like a flag here, which is a continuation pattern. Now, price has come back into this daily fair value gap here. It rejected, left us with a doji candle, and now looks like price is selling. We definitely missed the entries on these sales. Let's see. It's 7:02. We got a new hour candle. Okay, we got a new hour candle. Let's see if we can get in to GBP odd. Looks like we already got a pullback. Let's go down lower, see if there's any. Yeah, we missed this gap here too. All right, so with a GBP odd, I'm literally going to sell here. I'm going to sell here. Stop loss above the wick here on that 1 hour candle, and then TP down to that gap on our daily time frame. So TikTok, I'm gonna have to pause. Well, I don't have to pause, y'all. Let me type this in on my computer so I can let them know to sell GBP odd. Let's see. All right, 1 second, TikTok. So we're selling GBP odd. And I do have to pause, y'all. I need to get them their stop loss. 1 second. Ooh, 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 ooh. 1 second, YouTube. Your stop loss. Ooh. All right, sorry, y'all. I had to send that out to the signals group. All right, so we're in a GBP odd sale. All right, let's see what else we have. GBP CAD, we have CAD pairs and then NZD pairs. So let's mark up GBP CAD. We'll come over to our monthly time frame. All right. Here on our monthly, price is inside of an order block here. All right. So we're getting all of this sideways movement here on our monthly time frame. And price has not broken 50% of this order block. So I am going to mark this monthly order block up. And then I'm going to, I want to add trend lines here, but let's go down to the lower time frame to add a trend line. GBP CAD, a lot of these pairs gave us bearish engulfing candles last month. So the goal for these bearish engulfing candles is going to be wait for price to run these, and then it's going to be an easy 50% into these engulfing candles. It's going to be an easy 200 something pips. Let's see what 50% is. Good 290 pips. As soon as price runs these lows, on these engulfing pairs, I'm going to be looking for those trades trading back into that engulfing candle. All right, so I have what? The low, the 50%. Let me change these colors before I mess myself up. This is that order block right here. This is our low. And then the high of last month's candle. Let's come over here to our weekly. And our weekly here, we're going to mark up last week's high and 50% of last week's candle because the low of the weekly and the monthly is the same zone. All right. So here we can clearly see that price was consolidating and moving higher. And I do believe I have a trend line here. I think I'll start with this one. 1, 2, and let's see where we are inside of this trend line. All right. So we just broke this trend line here. Let's go down. No. What did you just do? Let's go down to our daily time frame. All right, so on our daily here, actually, I want to fix my trend line real quick. All right. All right, so we broke out of the trend line. Now we're back inside of the trend line, but we haven't ran a low, so I'm not looking for price to buy. Price is inside of a fair value gap here. So let's see if we can get some continuation here. And with this, I will just take it back to the low, but we can see if there's another fair value gap. I do see one here that price has already reacted to. So I want to see if there's one that price hasn't reacted to for us to take it back into. All right, so we do have one here that's a little bit lower than our last low. This was our last low here. This is where price currently is. I do want to measure it. It's about 248 pips. That's probably going to be a no-go for GBP CAD. I don't know how much GBP CAD normally moves on a weekly basis. So I'm just going to go to my weekly chart and I'm just going to measure a weekly candle. About 289 pips. So I'm not going to put my TP there. I feel like that'll be overextending it. So we're just going to go back to the last low, which is still more than enough pips, 135 pips. So we're inside of this daily fair value gap here. I don't have any price action signals yet to let me know to sell, but we are at the zone here. Let's come down to our 1 hour. All right, so our 1 hour is giving us bullish momentum here. We got a little fair value gap here. We got this big, huge bullish momentum candle, but it looked like it did that just to come into this gap here, which it did reject from. And it looks like price is slowly moving down. All right, so I'm not gonna keep that area marked up because this is the gap that I'm looking at right now, is this daily one. So this purple line right here is 50% of that daily gap here, and we've closed underneath 50%. Price has created this 3 candlestick sell pattern. I can never remember the name of the 3 candlestick sell pattern, but it has created it, and it left us another fair value gap here, which is giving us sell momentum. Let's go to our 15 minutes, see what's going on. We got a huge gap here. So what I think I am going to do is wait for price to get underneath this trend line here, because this was a higher time frame trend line that we marked up. this wick to this wick. Do I want to wait? It's already traded through it. Let's look at the pound and see what's going on the pound. Let's go to the pound. Let's see. Okay. The pound has given a head and shoulders here, but it has not made its way back up. Let's see if the pound wants to give us a new low. If the pound is going to continue to sell, then that will help GBP CAD to continue to sell. Let's look at CAD real quick. Okay, CAD is selling too. So we got sell structure on both the pound and the CAD, which should just send GBP CAD down. I haven't marked up GBP CAD in a minute. I'm not going to mark it up right now. I am not. So I'm just going to wait for price action to let me in here, right here at this zone, that fair value gap on the daily. We're sitting here at 50%, but I am not comfortable with selling it just yet. Especially with this big impulsive move push up here, this is starting to look like correction and then continuing higher. Price did a long drop after breaking out of this consolidation area here. Price could pull all the way back up here, especially because we're back inside of the trend line, right? So I'm going to need some more price action to see what's going to happen here on GBP CAD. But this zone right here is going to let me know if I am going to be a buyer or a seller. So here's the overall look of GBP CAD. And then we're waiting on price inside of this fair value gap here on the daily. I'm going to come back live during London session, and then we'll see what's going on London session with GBP CAD. Let's see what's going on with Euro CAD. Let's come to our monthly time frame. All right, so it looks like EuroCAD is also inside of an order block here. All right, so it's inside of it, but we have not hit 50% yet. So I am going to mark 50% because if price is buying, this is where I would take my profit at, but don't know if price is buying just yet. All right, so I'm going to mark my monthly low, monthly high, and 50% of last month's candle. All right, I'm going to mark weekly high and 50% of last week's candle. Our monthly low and weekly low is the same area. Excuse me, guys. All right, here on our daily time frame, looks like for the past 3 days, price has not been able to get out of this area here, which is inside of this fair value gap here. So I do want to see where price is at on this 50% here. All right, so we're right at 50% of that fair value gap, which means that price should be buying, but we've hit this area so many times and the buys haven't held. I am going to mark up this fair value gap here. And I'm going to delete this one just because buys don't seem to be holding at the moment. I'm going to come down to my 4 hour. All right, so we have another fair value gap here. I want to know why buys isn't breaking this area here. So you see we got all this wicks in this area, prices rejecting over here. Then if we look over here to the right, it's not in the same area quite, but we still got some rejection here. So I'm going to zoom out and I just want to see what's going on over here. All right, and I do see a gap here, but I'm not sure if that's what's causing this frenzy. All right, it is. It's definitely what's causing the madness. All right, so you can see all the wickage here at 50% and along the top here, which is why we're getting rejection again back to the downside. So let's see, EuroCAD. So EuroCAD is telling us that we want to sell. So I believe GBP CAD should be following. Should follow it. Let's go back down to our daily here. The only place that I'm going to go on this is the imbalance fill. Okay. I'm not going to look for anywhere else. So the imbalance fill is to fill this full gap. That's about 70 pips. Let's come down our hourly time frame. We've hit this zone so many times here on the hourly, and this is definitely starting to look like consolidation on our hourly time frame. We got a little bit of internal structure here. And every time price hit this area, it rejected and sold. So let's see if we're going to get some continuation in this area. So I'm going to come back to my hourly. Price gave us a tweezer top pattern, which would have been the entry for a sell. At the moment, let's come down to 15-minute. All right, so we got an inversion here. Price came underneath the inversion here. If we get a retest, price comes back and retest this, right, and reject it, then you can sell. I'd put my stop loss above this candle here. It's only 8 pips. Let's see what this is. Give it some wiggle room. That's 24 pips. Let's see what the risk management is on here. What the risk to reward is. This is our imbalance fill. Okay. It's a 3-1. It'd be a decent trade to take. Just still not sure about this entry. I want to remove this background so we can see a little bit closer. Price is respecting the bearish gaps. We got a gap here. We may not get a pullback. Here's another gap. This may be gone. I don't like not entering near zones. I really don't. It's already 30 pips in profit. EuroCAD may be a goner because here's another gap, which is probably not going to send it back higher. Looks like price just rejected this area here, which was another entry. I'm gonna leave EuroCAD. I'm gonna leave EuroCAD be. GBP CAD is gonna be the one to sell if it gives you an entry. Okay. GBP CAD is underneath our daily fair value gap here. Looks like we're getting a retest. We're gonna hold and wait on GBP CAD. Let's see what happens here. Is GBP NZD selling? GBP NZD is buying. This is last week's markup. Hold on, TikTok. All right, we got 4 minutes left in this candle. If it closed bearish with this rejection, then we'll get in for a sell on GBP CAD. And then we'll let that be the end of weekly markups. I had to stop. I can't hold y'all. Okay, we got 3 minutes left in this 30-minute candle also. He is gone. Not GBP. Playing with me today. Mm-hmm. Where we at? GBP CAD. We got 1 more minute left. All right, we're just taking it back to last week's low. Okay. Drive safe. Love you. All right, we got 19 seconds. And then sales for GBP cat. TikTok, I gotta hold for a second. I need to find stop loss. All right, we're selling GBP cat. We got here. All right, so we sold GBP cat. You know what? Oh, you are you still here? Did you think I ended it? I'm sorry, I paused it. I had to pause it for a minute. TP is last week's low. All right. I have 10 minutes for questions before we get off of this live. I have a call at 8 o'clock. Do we have any questions? Looks like Euro Odd is giving an entry too. Giving you an evening star here at 15-minute time frame. If you like to enter Euro Odd 2. Now, taking Euro Odd back to last week's low isn't going to be as many pips as GBP Odd. And I don't see an area closer than this one. So if price does end up dumping this far, it's 155 pips. I'm going to miss it. I will miss it. But it is giving an entry here on Euro Odd. We're already in sales on EJ, GBP Odd, and GBP Cat. Let me mark these so I know what we're in. is it? GBP Cat and EJ. All right, I'm going to set alerts for my stop losses and take profits, and then we're going to be done for the night. Just going to mark this area here. I actually need to correct stop loss on GBP odd. It should be above the high on this fair value gap here. Alrighty, TikTok. I'll see y'all London session 2:00 in the morning, Central Standard Time, 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all have a good night. Alrighty, well, family, this is going to be end of the live. I am going to go ahead and end it here. Let it upload. Let it download, and then I'll upload it to YouTube. I've already sent all of the signals in the group. It's pretty much going to be the only ones that we're going to take for this week. All right. So I'll see you guys in the community. Have a good night.